Yeah.
See you later.
You can hold it. See you.
What's up, brother?
Ezra, how are you? What's up? Good to see you. Yeah.
All right, so we got one that'll be joining us in a few minutes. He may or may not have had a little rough night last night and still recuperating, which is going to be super awesome when he comes on and now knows that you all know this. All right, so to get things started, what I'd like you all to do is say your name and one word to describe yourself.
John Galley, recovering lawyer, that's two.
There's a dash in there. Huh?
Garrett Gunderson, passion.
There we go.
Ezra Firestone.
All right, so some of you all are fairly familiar with this business. Some of you all not as much, which is perfectly fine because all of you all are very successful entrepreneurs. So what is the first thing you would do as an amazing selling machine student to grow your business? Now, it doesn't have to be something super tactical, though it can be, because obviously for a couple of you all do this business. Garrett does not. It's not really his thing, but he's done a lot of business, so you know how to grow a business. So either way, whoever wants to start.
Well, as Ezra knows all too well, I'm a total tech turkey. And I have to delegate.
Well, hold on. 1 second, John. So John comes down to one of my events, brings like 3 guys with him. They're doing all the work. John's drinking a beer. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, to show you how truly bad I am, at Ezra's boot camp, which by the way was absolutely incredible, as Ezra is, and within a minute I was right over my head. And fortunately, I had some people to help me. So what I would say is to any of you that are even close to being where I am in this regard, find yourself a good partner or a good source who has the technical capabilities of executing a lot of what needs to be done. That would be my advice, based upon my own circumstances.
So I'd look at every investment that you have and I would stop funding it. If you have an IRA, I'd move it to a self-directed. I would borrow money from it. I would put it into buying inventory, driving traffic, implementing everything they're talking about, and hiring an assistant so that you don't get caught up in the minutia or have any excuse not to get something done.
Boom.
I would private message Dr. Charles Livingston on Facebook until he agreed to promote my product to his network. No, I'm just kidding. I think that you guys really have everything that you need with the Amazing Selling Machine course. There has literally never been anything like this. How many millionaires and hundreds, I don't know, did you say $100,000? How much money this has produced for people who are not tech savvy, who just got online, is unheard of. So I would just follow the course, actually do it. The problem that I see with a lot of people who aren't having success with ASM, they're like, oh, I'm not having so much success. I ask them what module they made it to, and like, oh, I'm only on module 3, Just like actually do the course and you'll be good to go.
Perfect. So what do you think let's just go more general. What do you think the biggest opportunity in business right now is? It can either be for this business or in business in general.
Well, I can't think of any better opportunity than this. When I retired from the active practice of law, I spent a couple of years just kind of poking around on the internet because I knew that's where the future would be. And I was trying to find something that I could wrap my mind around that seemed interesting and could be, worth my time and hopefully lucrative. And as I'm sure a lot of people here did, as I did, I looked at all different variations of information marketing. And the more I dug into it and drilled down, the more I realized how very, very difficult that can be. And I just thought to myself, I just retired. I don't want something that is going to totally consume me. And then I was on a bunch of email lists, as almost everybody is. And I got an email about ASM. And I read it and I said, this is the first time that I've seen anything that made sense to me and the fact that it was based on physical products, I could much more readily identify with that than I could with all of this information marketing. And I mean, I'd thought seriously about it because I thought, I have a lot of things I could share with other attorneys. I built very successful law-related businesses basically based on the fact that I was a good marketer. I don't know that I was necessarily a better attorney than any of my competition, even though I consider myself to have been a good one, but I could market circles around them on their best day. And so I knew how to do that stuff, and I thought, oh, I could share this with attorneys, and I could make money from doing it. But when I started to drill down and realized all the components of what it would take to do that, I realized, wow, I don't think I want to do this at all. But then I saw what ASM was, and I said to myself, this makes sense. I can see myself doing this, and I can see it working. And so, I mean, I'm you know, one of the gospel. I go out there and people say, well, what have you been doing for the last year, John? And I tell them. And, you know, some people, it's like, well, I don't know about that. But I am absolutely a believer. So that's what I tell anybody. Sign up for this course.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks.
So there's this whole notion out there in the world that too many people have bought into called it takes money to make money. I'm sure you've heard it. Some of you maybe even have said it. But when we look at the opportunity today, it doesn't take money to make money. Money is a byproduct. It's on kind of like a function. So it's like the outcome of an equation, almost like when you go to a store and you buy something, money's the receipt, right? But there's goods that come with it. And the goods are mental capital and relationship capital. It's undertapped, it's underutilized, and I'll tell you, first of all, when people say it's not what you know, it's who you know, that's not true, because if you're stupid, it's going to be a really, really hard world out there. You know? It just is. But what's cool is, like, when you think about the infrastructure and the lessons and the group that, you know, ASM has brought together, how quickly can you gain access to mental capital that would have been impossible in the past? And when we look at today, I mean, because of the infrastructure and the internet, you're getting millionaires that are even younger ages. It doesn't matter how you look in today's world. It's about what value you create because of the existing platforms. So it doesn't require huge infusions of capital to build a business. As a matter of fact, there's businesses right now that are being invented in someone's mind or inside of someone's garage that's going to be worth $1 billion within a couple of years from now. Doesn't even exist, but because the world's calling for disruptive technologies. We're looking at everything that's frustrating and antiquated and bureaucratic, and it's being begged to be overturned into something that's more efficient, elegant, and that really provides value in the marketplace. So the opportunity I see is you're in this room because you're all contributors. You've invested in yourself. That means you're a contributor. But your greatest opportunity is to become a better receiver. Because when someone comes up to you and says, hey, how can I help you? How can I support you? If you don't have a really good answer, or you don't have something right there to tell them, like if someone comes up to me and says, how can I help you? I'm like, I love referrals into our program, you know? I'm always looking for A-team employees. Do you know any rock stars at what they do, that love what they do, that are just incredible? Because the best team members are already employed and you have to recruit them. So I always have response to that. So the next time someone offers to support or assist you, give them the top things that would help you out at a different level, and that'll take you completely and skyrocket you. So take your mental capital, and through service, solving problems, and creating value, apply that to relationship capital in such a high leverage way like the internet. What you're learning here means you're going to have a lot more financial capital, and it's the small, nimble companies that are going to make the difference, not the old monstrosities that were all completely brick and mortar everywhere that you guys are disrupting and bringing value to the marketplace, so I never have to drive to the damn store and wait in a line ever again. Thank you.
Biggest opportunity for ASMers right now, Dr. Charles Livingston's personal network. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously though, if you can get Charlie to promote your product, you're doing well. You know, the one thing that we've really focused on over the last several years, we saw in e-commerce, we were just like a lot of these e-commerce businesses who were solely reliant on free organic traffic from Google. And we started to see people going under because they had that single failure point. So we really focused over the last 4 or 5 years on becoming experts in paid media, in the ability to drive visibility to our offers from paid sources at a profit. And every platform that we've done that on rewards us. Like these platforms, like Amazon rewards you for bringing people to the party. So if you can get really good at one paid visibility source, if it's Google AdWords, if it's Pinterest ads, if it's Facebook ads through the Social Secrets course, if you can put some attention and energy on learning how to target groups of people with messages and pay to put those messages in front of them and send them over to your offers, I think that is the biggest opportunity for you in any business. Of course, you need a good offer, but since you guys are moving people over to Amazon and people are very comfortable purchasing on Amazon and your products are good, you kind of have the offer part taken care of. So I might start putting some attention on learning how to drive traffic in a paid environment.
Give it up for Ryan Moran. Made it.
Handsomest and latest speaker panel participant. There's so many opportunities, it's hard to boil them down to just one. From a personal perspective, the opportunity that I'm most focused on is, my favorite thing in the world to talk about is investing. And one of the things that I invest in is other companies and other businesses. So I sometimes fund other ASM-style businesses. So like, I used to buy and sell websites. When I had one really profitable website, the next thing I wanted was, how could I get as many of these as quickly as possible? So if you're already seeing success or you have money in the bank and you have your business is properly funded, I'm looking for the next thing to fund. And I think that's one perspective that you can take from an investment perspective. Another thing that I keep waiting for the market to start to shift and for somebody to have the great idea to start the service side of this business, of working with companies who are not on Amazon and bringing them onto Amazon. I have a few students who are charging several $1,000s a month per client of bringing people who are not on Amazon to Amazon and using that as the source of funding to grow their own organic brands. So I'm also waiting for somebody to start a business that services Amazon sellers, that has tools and software platforms that make it easier for us to build our businesses. And I keep waiting for somebody who has experience, because Amazon doesn't know what to do with us yet. We're kind of new to their goals, to their platform in the grand scheme of their business history. So I keep waiting for real sellers to develop tools and software that make our lives easier. I think those are going to be the next trends that we see in our community, and I think that the opportunities to get those kickstarted is ripe for the taking.
You know, Ryan makes a really good point that you guys are already a part of the biggest opportunity for new business owners ever. So one of the things that you can do to make sure that you capture and take advantage of that, it can feel overwhelming and lonely, and it can feel hard if you're all alone. So you can join a mastermind. You can meet someone here and get an accountability partner. I think the biggest opportunity for you is to actually just do something, to make sure that you take action. And one of the best ways to do that is to have somebody who you're relating with about what you're doing. It could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your mother. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, but you've got to have someone who you're sharing this with. And that can help you take advantage of this opportunity, is having someone to relate with about it.
You know, since we keep calling him out, and I see an empty chair here, who wants to have Dr. Charles Livingston join us on the stage? There he is, right there.
Charlie, you can only come up here shirtless.
I'll get a stethoscope. Come on, buddy.
So I'll tell you a little bit about Dr. Charles in just a second.
Thank you.
So Dr. Charles, as Ezra said, is the nicest guy on the planet. He's so nice. He had no idea we were going to do this, by the way. He's probably not very happy right now. But nicest guy on the planet. And he built a very successful information product business. If anybody's ever taken a look at ClickBank, he had the #1 best-selling product on ClickBank for, I believe, a couple of years, called Fat Loss Factor. And so, it was sort of a passion project for him. He was very interested in weight loss, came from being a chiropractic profession. He's still very into all that sort of stuff. And, that business built very successfully for him. But at one point, he became a customer and just an amazing selling machine student. We actually met him at a live event. I had seen his product and bought his course and ripped off his sales videos and everything else many times before meeting him. Literally copied his entire sales funnel before meeting him. And he's a super nice guy. So, but he built his Amazon business very successfully. Built a very successful business selling physical products of stuff he'd never sold before. He didn't use his list, even though he had a massive list. And now he's done some pretty incredible things outside of Amazon as well. So definitely wanted to bring him up here, not just because Ezra keeps giving him a hard time, but because he's a good guy with a lot of good information to share. So maybe we'll run through these 3 things for you real quick. Name, everyone knows, Dr. Charles Livingston. 1 word to describe yourself.
Ripped.
Charles Livingston. Doctor.
There you go.
There we go. So you've been here for the past 3 days, sitting in the audience with everyone else. What's the first thing you do as an ASMer to grow your business?
Network, and network. You guys are, look at all these people out here, and you could be sitting next to somebody who is making, crushing it, $150,000 a month. And I'm constantly surprised by the amount of people who are just, it seems like every ASM that I've went to, the first ASM, it was we were looking for that one person who was doing $100,000 a month. Then the next one, it was that one person who did $1 million. Next, it's 2 or 3 people who are doing $1 million a month. And this one is I'm hearing of people doing 10 to 100 million a month. It's crazy how fast this is growing. And you never know unless you talk to the people next to you who this person is. So look left, look right, and just start talking to people. And this is how you build not only your network, but if you ever have a question, it's really easy to get answers if you have friends in the business.
Awesome. I don't think he meant $100 million a month.
Oh,
I think he meant a year, but still a heck of a lot. What do you think the biggest opportunity is for ASMers right now?
Biggest opportunity for ASMers. Yeah, I would say right now, if you want to grow big, you find people to partner with to complement you. Cool. That's the way I grow my businesses. I know my weaknesses and I know my strengths, and I find people to complement my weaknesses.
Yeah, so the interesting thing with you is that you've built some a very large physical product business at this point, and a lot of it's based off of paid traffic, but you're not the person driving it.
Yeah, I'm not a traffic guy, no.
Yeah, so that's what
I find the best, and then that's how we grew.
Absolutely, cool. All right, so now back.
Let me say one thing, Matt.
What's up?
One thing for you guys to consider. One of the things I saw that was really interesting in the survey they sent to the speakers, which, by the way, thank you so much. That was a genius idea. Was that 80% of you are getting your products from China, and that's awesome. I have nothing against sourcing from overseas. I do know that the people who I know in my groups and in ASM and my mastermind and stuff who source domestically have a much easier time not having their products knocked off and stuff like that. So one of the things that you may want to consider at some point to give yourself a little more diversity is the potential of sourcing a product domestically, because it's a little bit harder to replicate and stuff.
Cool. All right, so next question for everybody is the biggest mistake ASMers or entrepreneurs in general make when building a business. We can start with Ryan down there.
I think the biggest mistake that people make, especially when they're starting, is failing to treat their business like a real business. I talked a lot a few days ago about what would it look like if somebody wanted to buy your business, whether you sold your business or not. What does it look like from an outsider's perspective? Because when you think about that, you become a better entrepreneur. You build a real business. There's often the question of, when do I get to take money out of the business? And there's an attachment to, this is my money. It's not. It's the company's money. You're building a company separate from yourself. So working on your business and treating it as a separate entity and building it like a real company, rather than seeing it as an extension of yourself, makes you a better business person and allows you to scale and build much faster. There's a temptation to look at it as, this is either a side thing or this is something that has to work for me personally rather than it being a separate entity that you work on. And that creates a lot of tension and stress around the process rather than building it as a real company, which allows you to build it a lot smarter and faster.
Woo! He's very handsome, it's true. I have an up close and personal look here. He's got a very defined beard line. Took a while to get that. That was not an accident. That was deliberate, man. I can see. I'm just kidding. You know, there's a couple things. The first one is I meet a lot of people who want to spend time telling me how poorly they're doing and how they're not where other people are, and they're judging themselves in relationship to other people. And you can just remember that, like, you are in the right spot for you, that where you are right now is good. You're farther along. There's always someone ahead of you. There's always someone behind you. It's irrelevant where other people are. And if you spend your time with your attention on what other people are doing, that's time lost that you could be putting your attention on growth. So anytime that you're spending like second guessing yourself or judging yourself for where you are is wasted time. The other thing is there's a lot of people, and people who paid, like, you know, I don't know how much we charged for Social Secrets, but it was a lot of money, or it wasn't that much, but it was, you know, it was a fairly expensive course, and then they don't want to invest in their business. If you come this far, you've sourced a product, you've done all this work, and now you don't want to sell your product at a discount to get the word out. So, like, you've got to be willing to invest in this business. You get in what you put out? No, you get out what you put in. So, number one, give yourself a break, man. You're doing a good job. Take it easy, have some fun. Who cares where other people are? And you know what else is great about where other people are is it shows you what's possible. It's beautiful when other people are doing well because you're like, wow, look at what's possible, you know? So I think if you're willing to just like have it be that where you are is right, have the viewpoint that you are doing well, it will serve you. And then also be willing to put in the effort and the money to have your business succeed.
I think the biggest mistake is overly diversified or getting distracted. Warren Buffett says it best, I think, when he says the difference between a successful entrepreneur and a highly successful entrepreneur, what's up, buddy? Is that, hey, man. Is how high they sit in their chair. And so, no. So successful entrepreneurs are addicted to yes, meaning somewhat successful, not quite successful, or even ones that fail. They say yes far too often. And the ones that are highly successful say no, 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 and only say yes to things that are in alignment with their vision and their values. See, there's this book that came out years ago that has completely derailed far too many entrepreneurs called Multiple Streams of Income, where people thought, you know what, I'm going to build a bunch of little small creeks that if any one of them dries up, the rest of them get neglected. So if you get your hands in too many pots and you have too many things going on, then people like Ezra, who's like totally diving in deep, how are you ever going to compete with someone that puts their full passion towards something? The difference between a creek versus an Amazon River. The Amazon River flows into the ocean, creates 40 miles of fresh water into that huge beast of an ocean, and life and society all around the Amazon River. Build a deep, deep, focused business that's extraordinarily powerful, and then you can branch off and do a few additional things from there. But don't prematurely diversify. Usually when you put the word premature before things, it is a bad thing. What, like, premature birth? I mean, anyway, yeah.
Take the mic from him.
Well, are you and I going to be the next victims? Yeah. Sort of a variation on what was just said. Some people have said, well, John, you were so lucky because you had this very unique and special product. And those who haven't said it to me were probably thinking it. But let me tell you the real truth of this. When I started out in ASM, the sunglasses weren't ready yet. I won't go into the story of all the things that we needed to do to get them ready. But in the interim period of time, I became just like everybody else, all the rest of you. I went through the training. I sourced 2 products, one domestically and one overseas. I got it up on Amazon, got it started, got it moving forward. Then, as it turned out, the Kickstarter project came along and went absolutely nuts. And I had to realize that any time I wasn't spending on the sunglasses was time misspent. And so I took these 2 products that I had worked very hard at to get up and running, and I turned them over to a young couple who are friends of mine, actually as a wedding present I gave them. And I said, here, you take this and run with it, because Matteo had been very, very helpful to me during that period of time with helping with tech stuff, because as you've already heard me say, I didn't know jack shit about it. It's the truth. But here's what I want to share that's important, because I've been exactly where you are. When I was going through that process, the grind, all the rest of it, with the 2 products that I did in all of the traditional way, I didn't make real good progress initially because I was chasing the next shiny object that was being touted in terms of do this or do that tactic, try this, try that. And I kept looking for the magic bullet. And I had to learn that there is no magic bullet. It's a process, and it's just like what Matt and Jason have told us from day one and what they've taught us from day one. So stop chasing shiny objects. Stop looking for the magic bullet. Do what the course tells you to do.
All right, one of the things that I would say, and just because I've made this mistake personally and actually had a listing taken down, and you can literally click on the link in Amazon and it just says page removed, is to stay compliant with your listings. And I had copywriting infringement called against me on one of my listings, and it really wasn't even, like, I really didn't break the copywriting infringement because the word that was patented, I was off by like 1 letter, so it totally negated it. But Amazon doesn't care. They're like, contact the other guy. And the guy didn't even sell on Amazon, so I had no hope of contacting him, somewhere in the middle of Europe. But just stay compliant, you know, check out, make sure that you don't have any trademark terms in your title or anything like that. And especially if you are growing your business to sell, nobody's going to buy your business if you're not compliant. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, great. What do you think's been the experience or insight or something that happened that led to the biggest breakthrough for you in your business in the past 5 years? Ryan. We didn't give them these questions ahead of time.
Well, I feel a little silly saying it, but I think it was a really big breakthrough when I hit the $1 million level in this business, because all of a sudden, I don't know if it was like a glass ceiling thing or if it was just new thoughts appear when you break through that barrier. I think because all of a sudden you realize that this is real, that there's real value, there's real intrinsic value to the asset that you're building that is far bigger than what I saw when I started this business. And the result of that was kind of standing at the top of the mountain and looking back and wishing that I had said certain things to me when I was at the bottom of the mountain, like stay compliant, like build this like a real business. Things that you learn along the way that I don't know if they can be communicated until you experience that, but it still feels necessary to share that type of information. And I forgive me for beating a dead horse, but I really wish that from the beginning I had treated it like it was a much bigger business. I wish I had kept a much bigger vision, because I would have got to that $1 million level much faster. But once breaking through that level, it was easy to look back and say, I wish I had done this differently. So from that level, I would encourage you, I don't know if it's possible to have that view without that experience, but if it is, I strongly encourage you to work on your business, to build it and keep a vision much bigger than you know is possible or that you can believe is possible. Because when you keep that in mind, you build it much faster and you build it much smarter.
For me, there's a couple things that I'll give you. One of the biggest ones was being willing to get out of the operational side of my business. And if you're in this room, you're responsible for innovation in your business. You're probably the core, at the core of your business. And if you're responsible for innovation and you're stuck doing operations, then that kind of bogs you down. And the thing about purchasing help, which is the way you should think about hiring people to support you, even if you're not buying a lot of help for your business, let's say you're buying 10 hours of help per week, or 10 hours of help per week, so someone, very part-time. That 10 hours of help that you're purchasing, maybe it's someone to do your customer support or someone to run your product launches or whatever it happens to be, answer your phones, is so much more valuable to you in month 3. Because the big thing that people say when I say, hey, why don't you get yourself some support, is, oh, well, I don't really know how to delegate, or I don't have any standard operating procedures. You get better at using that help over time. That 10 hours that you bought that first month, or that 40 hours that you bought in that first month, is worth 120 hours to you 3 months later, because you get better at using it. You get better at delegating. Because you're paying this person, I'd say commit to purchasing yourself some help, any amount of help, and over time you'll get better at using that help. The other thing, two other things. One of them is a lot of people give up before the magic happens. This is kind of the last question, but they just sort of like go so far and then they quit. Don't quit this business. This is like not the time to quit. If you're thinking about it, don't quit. And the third thing is, be the person who puts on the party, right? Like I always like to be the bartender at parties, because then everyone wants something from me. They all coming up to me, telling me about what's going on with them. So if you're willing to feed and water people, right? Put on an event, feed them, give them some drinks and stuff. Be the catalyst for creating the community. Find 10 people here and say, hey, I'd love to do an Amazon mastermind, even over Google Hangout. I'll Skype you a pizza or whatever. I'll order Domino's to your house so you can have pizza and a Google Hangout with me. But if you're willing to be the catalyst for creating a community, and this is the biggest breakthroughs for me have most definitely been at masterminds and events. I've met people, I've done deals with Matt and Jason, like all the people who I've met and related with and created experiences and businesses with have been my biggest breakthroughs. So I'd say throw the party, be the catalyst for creating the community that's going to support you and everyone else in that community. Get yourself some help and don't quit.
So that piece of the equation on relationship capital that I shared, now there's a really specific nuance that's important. If you can make the distinction between friends and friendly, it will change your life. Friends are the people...
It was just at the right time, I'm sorry.
I chose to sit by the right guy, you know what I'm saying? No. When you said water and stuff, I thought I would drink it myself and not have it spit on me, but it's cool, man. It's all good. No. So friends are like people that you actually invite into your life. So here's a good example. If you want to have an amazing marriage and you have a friend going through a divorce that wants you to spend a ton of time with them, maybe that's not the best idea if all they're doing is being completely negative about the concept of marriage. Let's say that you have a business idea and you have someone that knows nothing about business and their entire world is about, that's risky, that's scary, you can't do it, it's not possible. Maybe you stop inviting them into your life and sharing that part of your life with them and you just become friendly. So let me really simplify this for you. When you have people that are friends that want to see you do good, this is a pretty good test. My wife was once in this reading club or whatever, and when Killing Sacred Cows came out, she was 8 months pregnant. I was in Chicago at a strategic coach, and she called me and she was crying, and I was scared as hell, like, what's going on? Is the baby okay? And she's like, can't even get the words out. But then I remembered, I once had this shirt that said future billionaire, and her mom threw it away, and she was crying during pregnancy about that shirt being thrown away, so I was hoping it was maybe more of a deal like that. But at the same time, I wasn't quite sure, and she's like, well, my reading group decided to read Killing Sacred Cows, and they hated it. And I was like, thank God, those socialist I'm so glad that they hated the book. It means I wrote the right book. And One of those people were cheering for me not to do well in business. And so what I said was, we're going to deny every invitation they give us moving forward, and we're never going to invite them to anything again. And the noise stopped. So when you meet quality people, like I met Matt and Jason in Cayman, and they said, hey, do you want to be at our event in 2 weeks? I said, hell yes, because that is quality people that I want to be friends with, that edifies so many values that I share in my life, and I know that they're going to help me grow and stretch me. So friends versus friendly.
I want to expand on something that I've heard Ryan say and I've heard Jason say several times. And they've encouraged all of you to work on your business. But there's another side to that coin that maybe they just felt was implicitly understood. But I'd like to sort of maybe make that a little clearer to you. As a lawyer, in that chapter of my life, I worked for what is called linear income. I traded time for money. And even if I was able to charge $500 an hour, and of course everybody shudders at that thinking somehow the lawyer is putting all of that money in his pocket, which he isn't, nonetheless, even at high numbers like that, you're still working for linear income. And when you're self-employed, you don't have somebody else telling what you what to do. You have the worst boss in the world, which is yourself. You're working for an idiot. Maybe even a tyrannical idiot. But during most of that period of my life, certainly the first couple of decades of law practice, I was working for linear income. I was working in my business, and I never could get outside of that because I didn't have a bigger vision. And then what I learned how to do through reading some very good books and just talking to some very capable people was I stopped doing only the practice of law in the purest sense, and I got into law-related businesses. And I developed my own title insurance company because real estate law was what I specialized in. And then I learned how to do something called Starker exchanges, which can be enormously lucrative, and eventually that became the sole thing that I did. And I worked on my business to develop the ability to leverage myself beyond working for linear income. Now, how did I learn how to do all of that? There's a book that I hope some of you have heard of and I want to recommend since we've heard a lot of book recommendations today. How many people here have ever read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber? Okay, we have a few people, that's good. The E in E-Myth stands for entrepreneur. And actually there's a second version now that is what is typically available. It's called The E-Myth Revisited. But in that book, among many other important points that Michael makes for people like you out there that are transitioning from having worked in some kind of business, and now you need to learn how to work on your business. And I strongly recommend that everybody go home, go on Amazon, order that book, because it will help you to frame what it is that you're really doing here in terms of going from working for linear income into working for leveraged income and learning how to work on your business and not just in it.
I think what exploded my business the most is that you need to know your strengths. And once I figured out my strengths, I'm a connector. Anybody ever read the book, Now You Know Your Strengths? You buy the book, buy it on Amazon, and they give you a free test. So that was one of the defining moments in my life after I went through that and figured out, hey, wow, I've been doing this my entire life. And so once you have that realization and you can take that and you can actively work on that, your business will explode. Because then you focus on your strengths and then you outsource and delegate your weaknesses. So for me, that was huge.
I got
I
last
actually want to add in.
you know what John was talking about reminded me of a statistic and something that I'd like to share with you. 85% of multi-million-dollar lottery winners are broke and in debt within 5 years. Now, that is not a reflection of them being bad people or stupid or anything like that. It's a reflection of a concept called, a description really, a description of the way things are, called someone's capacity to have. And we all have capacities to have in different areas, right? Some people have a large capacity to have money, and others, so if you like take a shot glass and you pour water into it, eventually the water's going to spill out. If you take a pitcher and you pour water into a pitcher, it's going to be able to hold more water. So like, take Donald Trump, for example, right? The guy's on like his 10th marriage or something. He's got no, or whatever it is, I don't know. Oh, but it's a very, he's had a lot of them. So he does not have a large capacity for like close, intimate relationships, or that last very long, but he has a large capacity to have money. So the E-Myth is a great book. The Millionaire Mind, I think, is a book by T. Harv Eker. Breaking Loose from the Money Game is another book. So The Millionaire Mind, Breaking Loose from the Money Game, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. If you've never had a lot of money, if you've never had the capacity to have a lot of money or keep a lot of money, you might want to think about reading some books on money mindset. Because if you make a lot, you won't be able to keep it unless you have the right mind frame. You know, what you want to do is increase your capacity to have money in your life because you want to have money. And that is a mindset thing. It's not necessarily a business operational thing.
I want to add my 2 cents. Yeah. I got this one, buddy. For me, the biggest insight has been a combination of 2 things, and they really relate to each other. It's been belief in myself, which allowed me to change from saying, no, I can't, to yes, I can. And very much what Garrett said, but with a focus. When I met Matt, one of the things that he kept saying is, why not? Why not? I didn't know. And the answer was simply because I was too damn scared. I was too afraid to reach out and take that next step. And thankfully, this guy that was 15 years younger than me at the time was enough to give me a kick in the ass to realize, how stupid am I being? I want to grow a business. Grow the dang business. Dang, I can't believe I said that. And what that allowed me to do is, you remember that chart I showed where it shows that you got to make a commitment. And then it's going to be scary like crazy. But you got to take courage. Focus on that vision and just say yes and move forward. Say no to the things that don't align with your vision, and just believe that if it's aligning with that vision, you're darn right you're going to be able to do it, so do it. And that was what did it for me. So.
One of the things that, just playing off of that I had a fear of failure. I hope I'm not alone. Anybody else have a fear of failure, right? One of the things that a mentor of mine told me a while ago was that there's no such thing as failure, there's no such thing as failure, it's just all feedback, right? So once you learn that and harness that, you can make all the mistakes of the world. Just as long as you learn, you just keep pushing forward with that.
Here's something to think about with this whole business about failure and learning from your mistakes and so forth. I'm not a big baseball fan, but, I've followed it much of my life. So consider this. If you're a major league baseball player and you stay in the league for, let's say, at least 10 years, and if you were to hit .333, that means you get 1 hit out of every 3 at-bats, you'd be in the Hall of Fame. Anybody here dispute that? Anybody that had a career batting average of .333, they would be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. I don't think it's that different in terms of the Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame, because the people who deservedly belong in that, as we've heard over and over again, have had failures. And I've made lots of mistakes in my life, as I'm sure everybody out there has. But you need to keep it in perspective. We all learn, or have to learn, even if it isn't easy to accept, that that is part of what we have bought into. But if it's only 1 out of 3 that you succeed with, you'll be in the Hall of Fame.
Cool.
All righty, so the final question of the panel. One thing, I guess we'll start with Ryan again. One thing you focus on in your business right now for the fastest growth.
All right, I see night and day differences between people who focus really aggressively in the early stages of a product versus those who really play it safe. People who are, I don't know that there's a level of aggressiveness that is too aggressive as far as getting your sales and your reviews moving in those early stages, because that is what drives your keyword ranking, and that is what acquires customers. And customers who come back, who buy more, who talk about it, who leave reviews, that is what creates fertile ground for your business to grow. The faster that you can duplicate that process, the process of having successful products on Amazon that rank for keywords and are acquiring customers, the faster you will be. As I've talked with many of you throughout the last few days, I've seen a trend between those who are doing really successful, aren't afraid to go in the red for a while to get a product moving, to get ranking, aren't afraid to follow up with their customers in order to encourage reviews, aren't afraid to risk losing some money on pay-per-click, even though they usually don't. And then those who are saying, I'm really struggling to get this going, are being really conservative with their pay-per-click, are being really conservative on the inventory that they order and the inventory that they either give out or sell at a discount. And that is the dividing line. That is the difference between those who are really successful and those who are not, almost 100% of the time. That is the clear line that I have seen through hundreds of different students who have been really successful, is that they're really aggressive in those early stages of a product's development and repeating that process as quickly as they can.
I could not agree more with Ryan. So I'll tell you what I'm doing that has me grow the fastest, but it's going to be a little bit different than what I agree with Ryan. The more you can invest in your business, the more you can just promote it and market it. And then once it's up to 10, 20, 30 units a day, add another product to the line. The way that our lines are growing as fast as they are is we keep adding new products to the line, which all the other products keep. The products that we're doing 20 or 30 units, we add another line, we add another product to that line, we get that up to 20 or 30 units, and next thing you know, the other one's up to 50 because people cross over. So everything Ryan said, and I think you even said additional products, if you just follow the course and just promote your product, do everything you can to promote your product and be willing to go into the red on your Amazon business to get those organic rankings. Now what we're doing, and what I think you can do too, is anything that you do consistently, delegate. The way that I'm able to grow my businesses so fast is I'm the guy innovating, creating the systems, or finding systems that work and implementing them. And then as soon as you have a system, if it's the same customer service, if it's the same product launch strategy, whatever the system is that you're doing over and over, have someone else doing it for you. And monitor it and monitor them. But that gives you room to innovate, to source new products, to do things that you can't have other people do. So I think delegation and investment. And then the other thing, I think I've said this a bunch of times, and we only got 2 minutes, so I'm going to pass the mic, is get good at driving traffic.
So in 2009, I decided the last quarter of the year, I had so much on my plate and so much going on that I did something that was pretty revolutionary for me, which was I decided the #1 activity that I thought would drive new income, I said I have to spend 70% of my time on that, which only allowed for 30% for every other thing that was on my plate. So what happens is if you could find your #1 driver that's going to lead to more revenue and you focus 70% of your time, you have to get innovatively resourceful about the other 30%. That means that I had 3 things happen. 1, I got better people around me. I hired a COO, revolutionized my business. Number 2, I implemented better processes because I had a CEO, COO, where in the past, I was really good at leadership, which is what and why. I haven't been as good at management, which is how and when. So by bringing that in, freed me up. I could now spend 70% of my time on what was going to drive more income than anything else for us. And then finally, procedures. What can we use to use automation and technology to improve and leverage what we had? And I will tell you, we were already an Inc. 500 firm, and 2010 was our banner year after being in business for 12 years because of that one quarter where I had more busyness than ever before, the quarter before, and then I said, here's the one thing I'm going to spend 70% of my time on, and I will never do more than 5 main objectives in any quarter of my life. That way I focus, don't diversify. Cool.
Let me give two answers. The question is, what am I doing to try to expand my business? I'm doing what some of the other fellows on stage have said, as I'm looking for ways to expand my brand with new products, obviously in this case in the eyewear niche. But I think what's more important maybe that you'd like to hear is, based on my own experience, what is it that I would tell you to be focusing on? And we are all products of our own experience. If there's one thing that I could tell you that I've learned and was driven forcefully home by my Kickstarter program, is you need to look, if possible, to find the very best way you can to differentiate your product. Everybody here remembers Alice in Wonderland, true? You remember the two characters, Tweedledum and Tweedledee? Alice couldn't tell them apart, could she? They talked alike, they looked alike, they acted alike. In fact, they were alike. And the problem that we all have out there with whatever our product is that we have lots of competition. And your prospective buyer is looking at your product along with the competitive products, and they're saying, well, why should I pick you instead of the other guys? It needs to be because there's something there that you can point to that says, this makes me better. And in order to be better, it almost certainly means that in some way you have to be different. Now, you don't have to go to the extent that I did with Kickstarter. As you learn from Matt and Jason, there's lots of other ways that you can differentiate your product. But the best advice I think I can give you, based on what I had to learn, is take a very hard look at how you can differentiate your product, because it all starts with your product. Everything else is essentially meaningless if you don't have a product that people are willing to part their money with in order to have it.
I got two things. First is, don't be afraid to ask for anything in your business. It's something I teach my son all the time. If you want that, just go ask for it. The worst they can say is no. And the other thing is, remember, when you're trying to get stuff done, that the squeaky wheel will always get the oil. So if you're having problems with people getting graphics to you or whatever, make sure you stay on top of mind awareness. So always be talking with them and just reminding them, be respectful, but remind them to get stuff done. Squeaky wheel will always get the oil.
One last thing, Matt, can I say it? Quick, I know, it'll be real quick. Strategic partnerships. So there are people, there are bloggers, there are people you can reach out to promote your product for you. And that's the number one thing we focused on this last year, and it was our biggest year of growth, was finding strategic partnerships. Now, every one of you should create a 3 to 5 minute sales video on your product. It has the features and benefits of it, why people would want it, why it's different, why it's great. It can be PowerPoint, it can be slideshow. Doesn't matter if it's voiceover. The video quality doesn't have to be good. But if you're going to have someone if you're going to make a strategic partnership and get someone to promote your product, you have 100 times better of a chance of getting them to do that if, when you send them and say, hey, would you promote this product, if you have a sales video to show them, this is this is why, and it's a video they can watch. People who watch videos are much more likely to take action. Now, with every proposal we do on our ad agency for big, huge people we're going to run ads for and do big spend, it's not a phone call, it's not an email, it's a little video that shows them why they should use us. So use videos to, when you're connecting with strategic partners or bloggers and stuff like that you want to promote you, send them a video on your product and you'll have a much better chance of getting them to promote it.
That's it for our panel. Let's give a huge hand to our panelists.
Schedule that premature conversation there.
That was good.